Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered cuts to the senior ranks in the U.S. military, including a minimum 20% reduction of four-star generals and admirals. In this one-page memo posted to the Defense Department's website, Hegseth said the cuts are a critical step in, quote, removing redundant force structure in order to optimize and streamline leadership.
We're back with more DoD reforms. This one is General and Flag Officer Reductions. That's the official title. My title is Less Generals, More GIs.
For more on this, I'm joined by Mike Lyons. He's a retired U.S. Army Major and military analyst. Thanks for being with us this morning. So the Defense Secretary says this is reducing redundancies. Do you agree with that? And either way, what impact will this have on the U.S. military?
Well, not really. It's not reducing any kind of redundancies. This is just his intent to reduce the number of general officers that are on active duty, which I think it's always good to take a look at this and review to see what's out there and see what they can consolidate. But right now, there's about 38 general officers that are at the four-star level within our military. Congress has allocated up to 44. That number can go back and forth. He's talking about a proposal towards something that happened back in '86 with the Goldwater-Nichols Act that looked to see, how the military was structured. So I do think there are some efficiencies that they can be gained by combining the major combatant commands. Those are the large-scale forces, 6 geographies and 5 functional areas that are out there. Combine Northcom, Southcom, those areas within the Americas, and perhaps within Africa and Europe. But he's got to get to about 8 general officers at the four-star level in order to meet this goal. It's going to take a very long time.
How does that square then with what Pete Hegseth has previously said he wants for the Pentagon, which is increased funding from taxpayers, yet he wants a decrease of 20% in the leadership ranks? How does that make sense?
Yeah, Errol, you're looking at over $1 trillion defense budget, likely going towards defense contractors because the personnel numbers don't make a large part of that Pentagon budget. For whatever reason, he's going after the general officers. I think it has a lot to do with what he brings to the office as Secretary of Defense and having been a soldier in Afghanistan and in Iraq and seeing what's gone on in the last 20 years. And I don't think he's happy with how general officers have operated and have won these wars or not actually. So I think that's kind of part of it that's factoring into it. We're not saving a lot of money by cutting generals. What we're doing is streamlining, maybe getting more decision making down in lower places. But I don't think it's going to accomplish any kind of money saving goal.
Well, when you think of the $1 trillion spent in Afghanistan just for the United States to leave quite dramatically, that may be an example of what you're alluding to. Help us understand what role specifically then four-star generals and admirals play.
Well, I mean, four-star generals at the very top control all the major functions that exist within this large bureaucracy that's the U.S. military, which is a good thing. You layer over bureaucracy, it slows things down. The military continues to project power. Any changes, though, will be looked at by our adversaries as maybe we're not serious about certain things. If we decide to consolidate a certain geography, maybe we're sending a signal that that geography doesn't matter anymore. But these individuals set policy coming from the president, civilian control of the military for sure. But again, in the major areas, both from a geographic perspective, but then look at the functional areas. For example, I think cyber right now is led by a four-star general. That likely will get consolidated under more STRATCOM. That's the strategic command element as well. And then within those major combatant commands, there are nested other four-star generals that perhaps will get demoted back to 3-star and 2-star operations as well. So we might not necessarily see more 4-stars, but we'll see kind of less overall functions with regard to what they're doing.
And the nature of warfare itself has and is changing also. Mike Lyons, great to have you speak with us on this, joining us from Yonkers.
Thanks for having me.